What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to explore 10 different display options with the Hot Toys Mandalorian and Blurg set, with a few special guests popping up throughout the video. So let's get to it. Starting with display 1 here, we have Mando standing next to the Blurg with the addition of Grogu hanging out to the side. If you have height restrictions in your display, poses with Mando next to the Blurg opposed to him being on top will be easier to make work. One thing to be mindful of is you're going to need a lot of space horizontally in the display too. This Blurg is massive. Now moving through this video, I'm also going to be experimenting with displaying Mando using all of his accessories at some point to show you some of the many posing options Mando and the Blurg can have together. Lastly, don't forget, if you like my content, hit that like button, notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. But now, with that, you know what we do. Okay guys, moving on to display number 2. We have Mando and the Blurg in a simple display, with Mando this time riding up top in a casual cowboy stance, which I think when displaying is best viewed from this angle here. Now having the original Durasteel Mando as well, I feel like this newer one moves a bit better than the original, especially in the legs, which helps getting him into seated positions. Now with each display from now until the outro, I'll start by giving you a view from what I think is the best angle to display each pose, and then I'll show you some other angles briefly before we move on to the next display. So let's get to it. Taking a look at display number 3, we have Mando riding the Blurg, casually resting his hands on top of each other here, which is actually one of my favourite looks for him riding the Blurg. It's been really interesting playing around with subtle movements to try and change up his riding stance and get different looks. So for this one, I threw in the pram with Grogu to expand the look of the display and see them riding together side by side, which is a look I like. For viewing purposes, I like this viewpoint, and that's how I'd recommend setting it up in the display. Okay, taking a look at display number 4, and I've decided to bring in the use of the flamethrower for this one. We have Mando hanging on and sliding down to the right as if he's blasting his flamethrower down at an enemy. And to add a bit of extra flair, I'm also using some wire which I've put down the back of his armor to get his cape resting on and add the illusion of his cape catching the wind and blowing up and back. I really enjoy trying to pull this type of look off, especially to add some extra life to a pose and create some action and realism. I think this one displays well from multiple angles, but I really enjoy this angle best. Now let's zoom in and take a closer look. Moving on to display number 5, we are now incorporating his pistol and rifle. For this one, I'm trying to capture a moment as if he hasn't had enough time to reload his rifle and he switched it to his left hand and drawn his pistol with his right to keep shooting. I chose not to articulate the cape on this one so you could see what a pose like this can look like if you don't want to mess around with wires when posing. In hindsight, I should have done this with the cape flowing as well to see what the differences were and how it makes it look, but I had already moved on before thinking about it more. Moving on to display number 6. We now have the main focus on the rifle, and we have Mando in another action type pose, this time twisting and turning to aim at an enemy. You know, I really like how he looks when he's holding the rifle. I think it just really works. It's such a cool weapon. I've also brought back in the wire to have the cape flowing to try and sell the illusion of wind and movement in the scene yet again. For a display like this, I recommend displaying it set up to be viewed from around this angle, although it can also look really good looking down from a higher vantage point, which for some reason I couldn't get to translate to camera as well, but I can tell you it looks awesome in person. Moving on to display number 7, and I wanted to amp up the degree of difficulty and bring in another figure to create an action scene. This time using his grappling hook, which ended up having to be the one from my quarter scale Mando, as I needed it to be longer to get this look. We have Mando using it to wrap it around this transport trooper's neck to pull him along. This is an angle I'd recommend having him in as the main viewing point in your display, as from this vantage point I'm able to hide the stand assisting to hold the trooper up, which for me, hiding stands is important visually for me in my displays if I can pull it off. Okay guys, for display number 8, I've added Quill, who just came in whilst I was filming this video, so I had to throw him in for the last couple here. I chose to go for this display option because I wanted to use the scope accessory, and the fact that Quill has a pointing hand gesture, I thought this can work as a little scene, having Quill point to show Mando the way and then have Mando up top using the scope to look off to where Quill is pointing to. I think that works for me. I also threw in Grogu because I want to see a display with him riding with Mando, and I think this is the perfect one to try for it. They're about to go off on a little adventure. Moving on to display number 9, here we have Mando, Quill and Grogu together in a tense moment. We have Quill up top with weapon drawn, Mando alert looking on, loading around into his rifle, and then Grogu low down on the ground about to take cover from whatever lies ahead. This scene has Quill riding the Blurg this time, which if you only have one Blurg but both these characters, switching between who rides it in the display will keep it fresh. For Mando, I get to touch on yet another posing option he has by the fact that you can open up the chamber on the rifle and have Mando hold around the reload. I love all these types of little details, it gives you so many posing options. Okay guys, the outro and final display. We have Mando, the Blurg, Quill and Grogu all taking a break together. It tells a little story and I feel showcases all three characters nicely together. And that's it, guys and girls. I hope you found these display ideas helpful. I do it to put ideas out there for what type of moments you can create in your display. And I'd love to know if you decide to give any a go, put it in the comments or send me a message, because I think that'd be awesome. I thank you all for tuning in, and if you haven't already done so, do us a favor. Hit that like button, notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. Memberships are also available now to get a little bit more access, so take a look and see if you'd like to join the Iron Legion. We've got posing and display showcases, member-only hangouts, closed Facebook group, and live streams including my shows Posed Up and The Rundown, where we deep dive into film and TV. But for now, guys, until next time, I'm out.